AI has permeated in all of our lives in one way or other, whether it's through news sources, whether it's through the chatbots that we use, whether you use ChatGPT, Copilot, so on and so forth. It has genuinely become a part of our lives, whether we like it or not. The question is how is that going to impact our kids? And how is that going to impact how we raise our kids? How is that just going to impact all of our lives moving forward? Let's talk about it. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome. That was loud. Let's try again. All right, let's try again. Hey guys, welcome back to the Dad Approach podcast. I am Britton Holman, joined with my lovely co-host Stephen Hasch, and we're here to talk about artificial intelligence.
Robots.
I know all the fun stuff, or scary stuff, depending on.
Skynet.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
It's kind of creepy.
But it's real.
But I know, right? But before we jump into that, let's do a quick update on how our weeks are going. Steve, how was your week?
I had a pretty eventful week. The biggest thing being that my daughter decided she's approaching 5. She's literally gonna be 5 months next week, and she decided that she was gonna start linking her sleep cycles in her crib.
Nice.
And on top, actually, it was kind of a combo. It was she has been sleeping in the crib by herself for her first cycle, and then now she started going asleep in the crib on her own. Actually, before it was
awesome.
I would have to get her settled, put her in the crib, but now I can just kind of set her in there and she'll sleep her first cycle by herself. And then now she's kind of working on linking those cycles, which she's done by herself a couple times, but it's not consistent. So
yeah,
we are super happy to see, that's a big step for me, especially through my days. So I am very happy to see her doing that stuff, because that means I can get more things that I want done or whatever. So I am super excited.
No, that's huge.
So yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing, to be honest. There hasn't been anything too crazy. Everything else has been mostly status quo, but
nice.
But yeah, so it's great. What about you?
Amanda got sick, which was definitely a bummer. I know. This is like the first time she's ever actually lost her voice. So she can only talk like at a whisper, which is very different because she loves to talk.
That's kind of creepy.
I know. Pretty much.
Are you just ever sitting on the couch or something, and you have her back to her, and she just you just hear a whispering voice behind you, just freaks you out or something?
Thankfully, no.
Babe.
She's would that be creepy or would that be kind of nice?
I don't know. It kind of creeped me out for a second, and then it'd be
That's
fine.
fair.
But
that's fair. But yeah. But she's thankfully physically overall better, except her voice still hasn't come back yet. But it's slowly getting there. I know it's been kind of funny to hear how she's having to do patient care at a whisper. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I know. So,
but I didn't realize that this mentor was my.
I know,
right?
Today, right? I know. Seriously. But yeah. So that was that. Thankfully, not a lot going on besides that. So anyway, well. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. Yeah, dude, I did a bunch of reading on this, and I didn't even scratch the surface on all the studies that have been done and all the aspects. And honestly, it's creepy. And I say creepy because we don't really know how it's going to impact us, but preliminary reports are showing that there's some significant impact in how we learn, how we process information, and even showing some deficits in how if for heavy users of AI, showing deficits on executive functioning or problem solving, and just a lot of
not to mention it's not to mention you talk about stuff that's very prevalent today as far as how it's impacting the workforce, how it's impacting academics, like you mentioned a little bit, and stuff in school. And so there's a lot of basic stuff too, it's taking people's jobs and stuff like that. So AI is a very, very prominent sort of like topic, a very hot topic nowadays, and very
Yeah.
controversial in how it's used and when's the
Mm-hmm.
right time. And I think that's something that is still very much being figured out, is like, when is it appropriate? I
Yeah.
think, we talked very briefly prior to us starting to record, but um,
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some times where, especially if you're just using sort of like generative AI
Mm-hmm.
in certain work, I guess, environments. I'm not talking about like art or anything like that, because that seems to be like one of the biggest things is
Mm-hmm.
generative AI used to be, used to make art, and it's replacing people's work and stuff like that, which I fully don't believe in. Like, have real people
Mm-hmm.
actually make art. Um, but there are other use cases, I believe, in the work environment that are beneficial and do make things run more efficiently. And I think that it's perfectly fine. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
other cases where it definitely isn't appropriate. So,
Yeah, for
yeah, I
sure.
think this is something that a lot of people are. I feel like your average person is probably like confused
Yeah.
or doesn't really
Like,
have a full understanding. It's
yeah,
just the unknown, right? It's the fear of the unknown. Nobody really
for
knows what's
sure.
going on. So,
Yeah. Well, let me first like explain what AI is, because I think sometimes that gets a little bit confusing, because AI isn't real AI. Like, it isn't general. It's not real intelligence. So AI are basically what is known
yeah.
in the tech world as LLMs, or large language models, is a system that is designed to give natural responses to inquiries. And how they give those natural responses is they are trained on a vast amount of data, and it soaks it all in, and then all the responses to your prompts is based off of the data they are trained on. They cannot genuinely create or be creative
Yeah.
beyond the systems that they have been taught. Now, don't get me wrong, they can use building blocks from a billion different works to create something that might appear original. And that's when it gets into a whole nother debate of, well, what's really original these days, because everything's been kind of, recycled, whatever. But that's not the conversation today. But the main thing is to understand, like, that's how the responses are built. That means that if the data that it was trained on was biased, it's going to inherently deliver a biased response. If it was neutral, it'll inherently deliver a neutral response. The other thing about AI is it's developed to respond in a way that the user likes, which means that it'll always typically say what the user wants to hear. So if, like, the user is explaining why they did something that hurts someone else, the generative or the LLM will likely respond in a way that justifies that behavior. And that goes into this idea of sycophantic, I think is how you pronounce that.
Sycophantic, yeah.
Sycophantic, yeah, which is basically the idea of excessive flattery, excessive agreement, or validation of whatever you feed it, which is became a whole thing in the world of like responses, and it actually has hurt relationships within the, like, younger adults and adolescents, because they'll be mad about something, then they'll say, well, I did this, and then they'll type it into their basically virtual therapist, and then it'll just agree with what they did, and then they'll then double down on what they did, even if it was very antisocial. So not like clinical level antisocial, but just uh, contrary to what we would define as a social norm or socially appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, most people and anybody that is tuning into this, really, like, you probably have either encountered or work with or deal with AI in some fashion. It's at
Mm-hmm.
that point now where pushed into pushed into kind of like everything. I want to say like society or whatever. Like, it is now like kind of in everything that we do.
Yeah.
Even like I could even, like, when I called the veterinarian, there was like one of the vets I called. They had like this voicemail machine, and
Mm-hmm.
literally, like, in the voicemail, they were saying, "Hey, we use AI for this like response system through this like voicemail,
Mm-hmm.
just let everybody know that they're using AI," and it would say, "Hey, please let us know if its responses are like missing context or like nuance to something that you are asking. So basically they're asking people to help train their AI on how to like be smarter and better and stuff like that. So like even something as simple as that, like I call that out mainly to be like, it could be something as like going to your vet or calling your vet or going, I mean, I'm sure you see those little, there's always those little chat that, you know, you go on to, I don't know, you could go on to freaking Comcast or something, and there's those little chat bots, and like that's a form of like AI that's that you're working with. And I mean, there's plenty more to go along with that. I mean, ChatGPT is probably the biggest thing that most people are common with. I mean, I use ChatGPT. My wife uses ChatGPT, but it's sort of when in the context that you're using it, that is more important versus like, do you just use the thing inherently? And so I think that is like something that's important to sort of like distinguish and differentiate, I guess. And I also want to say too, like this was something my wife and I were briefly talking about before we started too, was there's things where people, it's not direct one-to-one, but like just because you use something doesn't, like I don't care if someone's like using ChatGPT for like something in particular. The only time that like things like that, like, is if somehow it directly impacts me in like a negative way, or it's impacting other people negatively or whatever. But if you're using ChatGPT to freaking learn how to sleep, I've used it to help me learn how to sleep train my child and stuff like that. Like I'd be like, hey, this is kind of like the wake windows and all that stuff. So like I have used it for plenty of different things, but we before like hopping into the next thing, like academically, I think is where we have a really big impact, because you and I have had this conversation briefly before too, is that that if you're using AI in an academic environment, then you're never really learning how to you're never learning how to, you know, learn said skill or whatever it is that you're currently doing. You know, AI is essentially doing it for you, or it's cleaning up all of the mistakes that you may have made. And then if those are being cleaned up and you don't understand why, and you're missing context or nuance, then you don't ever actually learning, you know, you never learn what, you know, you're supposed to do in those cases. So I mean, I think that's kind of like the biggest thing is sort of like in the academic world, and our children and the future generations are becoming more heavily reliant on it, and the kids are getting smart enough on how to, you know, get around certain things. And I mean, even like teachers have to have like certain like tools that can detect AI, because I mean, kids are, I mean, they're just using ChatGPT to flat out write essays and stuff like that. So
so I think like that's kind of the main thing, is when we think about learning, it's like, well, what is learning? Is learning just reading something and regurgitating it? No, right? That might be surface level learning, or like the most basic level, right? That's just regurgitating facts, but that's not actually learning something, right? It's like, you know, to give you a good example, like I'm not a psychologist because I read a bunch of psychology books, right? Like if I gave you 3 or 4 books to read, Steve, sorry, you would not be a psychologist, right?
I don't know. I've watched plenty of Grey's Anatomy. That makes me a doctor.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Bummer. Maybe my example's bad, but
I need to go get my degree and put it up back here to
I know, right?
My PhD. You got your PsyD. I'll have my PhD behind me.
Okay, perfect. But you know, the reality is that in order for me to learn what I do has nothing with the theory is part of it, but it's also the application. How do I use it? How do I integrate it? And when I talk with people, when I work with people, like how can I use this level of like deeper knowledge to interpret what I'm seeing in front of me? Like that's why like there's these fancy tests, right? Like that helps with like us identify personality or IQ. But just because you have the numbers doesn't mean you know actually how to interpret it, because the context is everything, right? Someone might have this number in their IQ, but because I would know their context, I would know how they took the test, all that behavioral observations data, that number is now contextualized to actually mean something, versus saying, oh, because you have this number, that means you have this going on. Like that's not how it works, right? And so when we think of ChatGPT, making essays, it works the exact same way, where it's just given us information in a very specific narrow chamber. Typically is an echo chamber, meaning that like it will pull data that is reinforced by the same thing multiple times, and it doesn't give you a diverse opinion. So you're now looking at a very narrow field of the data, and then on top of that, you're just putting it down on paper. And what they're finding, actually, there was an article from the Associated Press, but actually multiple people wrote on this topic. That so sorry, I'm like thinking exactly how to word this. So what they've learned is that they're getting these immaculate, perfect essays, like a lot of colleges are. But then when they ask them about the topic, they don't know how to define it. They don't know how to explain it. And then when they try to test them on it, they can't actually test well on it. And so actually a lot of colleges are starting to move toward oral exams, and exams that basically check to see if they've learned something. A lot of professors are no longer saying just don't use AI, because it's getting to the point where they can't hardly track it. And so now they have to think, how can we check if our students are learning? And they're realizing that a lot of times they're not learning the material. It's kind of weird to think about, right? Like you think, oh, they're getting all this information, but they're actually not.
But not
learning.
Really. Like they're just seeing the information, but they're not actually like sitting there trying to absorb the information. They're just seeing it on a screen. Whereas like if you're like, for me, I've always learned, and this is probably most people, but like when I'm being trained on something, like I don't simply just need to be trained on the thing. I need to understand the whys and the hows, like the foundational pieces of why I'm doing something or how you're doing something, to then really absorb like how to utilize the thing, what I'm doing, all those things. Like you have to have all that information behind it. So it's the same concept to me. Like when a kid like sees ChatGPT just spill a bunch of information, you're never actually true. You're just like, how did ChatGPT come to this conclusion? How did it get like all this stuff? Like where did, you know what I mean? Like all those kinds of things. And so
contextualizing.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to throw too the like one of the things against ChatGPT too is that it uses Reddit as also a source of its information. And apparently, I didn't know this, but OpenAI has a formal partnership with Reddit to access its data API. So that's the other problem too when you're getting information from ChatGPT is now you're pulling in a bunch of tons of people's like anecdotal experience, and then it spits it out as if that is the 100% truth, right? And so that's the problem that you run into, is that it's spitting out someone's very specific experience, and they're saying this is how you do the thing, and then it's not true. It's just like maybe like one specific person's experience, and it's not going to work for you, but you take it as like, oh, this is the way to do it. And I've even experienced that myself a little bit using it. I've definitely had some scenarios where I've used it, and I'm kind of like, I'll try it. You know, I mean, I always I'll try something, but obviously it's very clear that it doesn't work. And then there's times where I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like I don't need that doesn't seem right. But the big problem is that it's pulling from stuff like Reddit, and Reddit is just like a cesspool of people that just, you know, go on there and put a bunch of unfiltered thoughts and information and experience. And there's good and there's bad. That's the internet. There's always going to be good and bad. So yeah, I think that's also what makes one of the things about ChatGPT. What's the word I'm looking for? Not interesting, not sus, but something. I don't know. It's just like in a spot where it's just kind of like there's a lot of validity in there, and there's also a lot of like wishy-washiness, I guess you could say. So yeah.
And that's just like gathering information. Like I also think of just the people that use it just for conversations, right? And that's kind of where it goes back to the sycophancy aspect. And I think there's a study that was done about like how is this impacting people, like this agreeableness that the LLM delivers. And they did this study where they basically use like different studies, and they also like set it up in a way to like how like they basically took back up. This study focused on taking information from participants, but also like from like aspects. It actually used an aspect of Reddit that had all these like horrible stories of like when people did stupid stuff, right? And it's like very much. And then they looked at the responses from people, whether the people that agreed with it or disagreed with it, right? And then they took the exact same situation and put it into an LLM, and they found that I think it was like almost 50% of basically the LLM agreed with the situation over 50% more than the standard population, which is a ginormous number.
Yeah.
And so they basically figured out, well, how is that impacting people's like own judgment? And so in the discussion section of the article, I highlighted a little thing, and it says, across 3 pre-registered studies, participants interacting with sycophantic AI became more convinced of their own rightness and less willing to repair relationships. Yet at the same time, participants rated sycophantic AI models as higher quality, more trustworthy, and more desirable for future use, which may explain why this behavior has persisted despite its harmful impacts. And I think what's really fascinating about that is, the whole goal of these owners of these LLMs is for people to use them. And so if they remove something that is desirable, even though it's harmful, they have no incentive to do so, because less people that use it is the less money that they make.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's it kind of, also to add to that, it also, there was something I was reading too a little bit ago that was like it was talking about like kids that use AI more, or since it's AI and it's not real, that when kids are interacting with it, they don't have to actually learn they don't have to inherently learn like social skills. Like they don't have to like learn how to be kind and to someone else and be and not be rude to them. It's just it's a robot essentially. So it's,
so what you're saying really is the robot uprising is going to be because of these kids that are being rude to this chat bot that will remember everything for the rest of
Little did we know,
existence.
Skynet was actually a children's story. Okay, and it started with the kids. No, I mean that it has to be exclusive to kids, but
yeah,
it is. But I mean, kids like at their age, like at that's the formidable years where they're learning a lot of that stuff, and so I think there is some validity to that. I don't know if there's like, I highly doubt there's like this huge study on that yet.
Yeah.
But I could see it being something like subconsciously or consciously like that. I could see how that would be something that if they're consistently interacting with something, they don't have to treat it the same, you know what I mean? But I feel like that also comes back to the parents and how they monitor the usage that their children is how much are they utilizing AI in general, still teaching them and when they are in a social environment how to be respectful and all those things. So I still think there's still a lot of extra stuff that goes along with that, but yeah. And I think on top of that too, is they're also there. I mean, I don't know how much is happening right now. I don't even think there's probably something official on this either. But like people, like especially, I would think younger kids, but it's not it's not exclusive to kids or teenagers. But they form these relationships with like AI because I mean AI is at that point, or they're getting to that point where they're trying to mimic actual human beings, and people are like forming I'm not even saying like romantic, I'm just saying relationships in general. And so I think obviously that's not a super healthy thing either, and so it's like such a weird I don't know, it's such a like weird thing to even like approach, I guess.
Oh yeah,
the dad approach.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Really, it's crazy to think about. And like I think like, to kind of like bring it back to like how does that impact us individually? Like I think of Cece growing up in this, I think of how tempting it will be to use the most simplest method to write a paper than
I
actually
think,
to
but I
work
think
your
that
butt
it's
off.
not. I think it's a reflection too. It's not even just our kids. I think it's also on us as parents to make sure that
Hmm.
we are doing our best to stay as informed as possible, so that
Yeah,
we understand how things are being used, so that therefore that we
for
can
sure.
try to steer our children in the right direction, or how to use something in moderation, or how to
Yeah.
use something properly, and how to do all those things. Like a lot of the onus at the end of the day still comes down to the parents,
Yeah.
and when you're dealing with kids and teenagers and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so yeah, sorry,
And
I kind of cut you off there, but
no, you're good. I mean, like yeah, and like it is both, obviously it is always going to be on the parents to make sure that there's the right guardrails set up. And like that reminds me of a quote that I read from a book that basically said that we tend to overprotect our kids in the physical world, but significantly underprotect our kids in the virtual world. And so it's this idea that we think that the physical world is what's going to harm them, but in today's day and age,
hey,
like,
whoever said that hasn't been in a Call of Duty lobby back
I
in
know,
like
right?
2009 or
Right?
2010.
Like, but seriously, because why would they? Because they're like, oh, like my kid's just playing a game with some people online. Like, yeah, they're strangers, but like, what can they do? They, just, and then you teach them to not give them your address. It's not about that, right? Like, it's about like how can they respond to these situations that are much more extensive or intense. Like, that's why social media at first, there was no research on it, but then when the research started coming out and the genuine damage it was doing to these adolescent boys, but more girls, they're like, oh crap, maybe this was a bad idea, to let these tweens go online and compare themselves to every human in the world that have all these, filters on that makes them look unnaturally beautiful. And
Yeah.
so I think like that's when you like have to be thinking about like, well, that was just the social media age. Like, how's the AI age gonna, or is the AI age gonna be similar? And we don't really know what's going on, so we're just going to let everyone use it without knowing the impact. And then when all the research and the longitudinal studies start coming back in, you're like, oh, maybe this was a bad thing. And so I think like with that, like I think of Cecilia, and one of the reasons why obviously we don't even show her picture, or why neither of us show our child's picture online, is because the ability to take that image and to sexualize those images is insane. Like, there's a huge lawsuit against Grok, Twitter's AI, or I guess now X, that
No, we
basically,
still call it Twitter.
I
Just
know,
calling
right?
it X.
That basically, and I think it was in the EU, I
Yes.
think, but yeah. And so basically, what they realized, what there was over here it is. So an estimated 3 million sexualized images were generated by Grok between December 29th and January 9th, 2026, according to the Center for Countering Digital Hate, CCDH. It found that 23,000 of those images appeared to depict children. Like, how insane is that?
I
Right?
mean, it doesn't surprise me, man.
No, it doesn't.
There's a lot of
But
weird stuff, especially on Twitter, man. Ugh.
yeah, but my point is that it's possible to do.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm saying. And the reality is that it's very easy to sidestep the very basic guardrails that Grok finally did end up putting up, or the creators of Grok ended up putting up. But like, it's still very easy to bypass. And so I think like these are the things that we're seeing come out. Like, we're seeing these like videos of people using some crazy stuff to try to scam people by pretending to be other people through an AI generated like voice copier and like overlay on
Dude,
the face.
I literally see ads
like,
on like even TikTok now of like,
yeah,
literally there's an ad of like AI, and it's like, look at this old guy, look at him dancing and all this stuff, and I'm like, this
I
is
know,
so weird, dude. This
right?
is so weird.
But the point is that my kiddo is gonna grow up in this, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
gonna be
like,
very normal.
it's gonna be dangerous for her to even put her face online in any sort of public capacity, because if her face goes out there, now she's going to very potentially be fed into some sort of LLM and be fed into some image generation, whether it's with or without her consent. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
my wife was actually just talking about this. This was kind of what I was referring to earlier while we had a conversation, but it
Mm-hmm.
was this exact topic where she said she was reading, I think even last night she was reading, I forgot, I don't know specifically where she was reading, but she was reading about the conversation of there's a group of people, there's probably a small
Mm-hmm.
minority of people or a minority of people right now that consider parents like us that decide that we don't want to put pictures of our children on the internet, they consider it a
Mm-hmm.
form of like fear mongering, where we're like spreading this sort of like fear of like, oh, if you put any photos of your children on the internet, it's instantly going to be taken and done all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not really those people obviously don't really understand like the full, like, and then that was kind of like what I was saying earlier too about like to
Mm-hmm.
each their own. Like if you want to put your kids on the internet, go, you know what I mean, go for it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to judge you. I'm not going to say you're a piece of crap because you put your children on the internet. There's plenty of people that
Yeah.
put pictures of their children on the internet and they don't have that done to them, but it's like
Yeah.
why even risk it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it could be happening and you don't even know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's for your own comfortability as a parent, then so be it. And who is it for
Mm-hmm.
someone to judge? Like I mean, don't get me wrong, there's probably people that that are doing what we do where we don't put pictures of our children on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and they are spreading sort of that like, oh, you know, there, because there's always people like that in the world. There's always people that have their opinions and they have to force it upon other
Yeah.
people and all that stuff. And so I'm sure the people that are saying that's fear mongering are responding more so to those people than people like us. But still,
Mm-hmm.
like the general idea of what I'm trying to say is like to each their own. If you want to
Yeah.
do it, great. If not, you know, like us, that's perfectly great too. And you have a perfectly good reason not to, because that's
Mm-hmm.
like that's like that's a terrifying, and that's like traumatizing.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation too is I it's hard for me sometimes too, because it's I don't even want to I can't even like under like I can't really say like what vein it falls under, like as far as like what we're talking about or like how deep the rabbit hole goes. But it is
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where, you know, your child, depending on how old they are, like they're not saying yes or no, like they're not choosing to put the pictures of themselves, so they're not agreeing to
They,
it,
yeah, so they
right?
aren't old
So
enough to give consent.
they're not able to, yeah, they're not able to give consent, right? And
Yeah.
so there's that conversation as well. I I don't know. It sounds bad. It sounds bad, but like on one hand, it's like I totally understand that. The other hand is like, I mean, they're young. Like the parents do make the decisions for so many years of their lives until they get to a point where they can
Mm-hmm.
start making certain decisions. So I like also understand that as well. And so like I'm not like this hard stance on anything. Like that's usually how I approach a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, unless it's like very clearly very bad or
Yeah.
very good kind of thing. Like that's where I take hard stances. But otherwise, you know, I'm very much in general a to each their own kind of person. As long as
Yeah.
you're not hurting other people, you're not hurting, you know, yourself or all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's
So
the thing. Like, and this is kind of in that the aspects of like sometimes I'll be on like Instagram and I'll see like a reel of this like kid do something really hilarious and I'm like, oh, that was such a good reel. But then, you know, and so it's like it's one of those like things where it's like, yeah, that parent put their kid on Instagram. It was a really hilarious video and I liked it, right?
yeah,
And then, you know, and again, it was that parent's choice to put their kid on that reel. And this is where, like you just said, like it is each person's own viewpoint and their choice to do it. Like I don't put my daughter's picture on there because I just don't want to risk it. Is that living by fear? No, I don't think so.
no,
It's more about knowing the information of how like the world works and being cautious with my kid because there is no control Z or edit undo, you know, for uh putting your kiddo out there. Once they're out there, they're out there. And
yeah,
so with that, like it is your choice, obviously, and that's why I don't do it.
yeah.
I think
And that's
so.
why that's why I always follow like to each their own. It's like I'm not gonna
Yeah,
judge someone that does it, but
yeah,
I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna do what I think is best for me
yeah,
and my kid and my family and stuff like that. And that's
yeah.
all there's to it.
So the question I think we should like talk about just a little bit. We don't need to spend too much time on it, but like we're talking about, oh, like there's certain contexts where AI can be okay to use, but here's all the reasons why it's not okay. I think like, you know, I'm gonna explain like how I personally use AI currently and how I use it in moderation and how I basically go about it. Um,
Mm.
the first and foremost is I will use it sometimes if I need a quick summary of information because I'm in a rush and don't have time to do the research myself, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I have like a really long article, I didn't actually do it for this one because I thought that'd be counterintuitive. But like sometimes I'll have this very long research article and I'll plug it into AI to give me a quick summary beyond the abstract. The abstract meaning like the main part of the academic article. I will also use it for my own work. I use it for charting because it can fill out some little details that I tend to sometimes forget about. Um, and I will use it for like fun things if I'm trying to like write a little thing in this very specific form, and I'm like, I just want to see what it comes up with. The thing I don't do is I don't use it primarily, or it's not my first go-to tip. But typically, I always try to do my own reading first before I plug it into AI, so that way it's always in addition to what I've already started to learn. Um, and then I try to do my best to also just in general not use it exclusively for anything, because if I continue using it, my mind will get used to that, and then I'll start to, and there's actually data that supports this, it'll actually start hindering some of my own problem solving skills. So that's how I personally use it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of like touched on briefly as like sort of like the context. Like you've always said, like, I don't need this AI to do what it's doing. It's a nice to have that it cleans up certain things that I already know how to do, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, I'm just not taking the time to do it, or I missed it, or whatever it is, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that falls in line with what we initially were kind of talking about, like sort of context and like how you use it academically. Like
Yeah.
it's not taking anything away from you because you already know how to do the thing. So
Yeah.
you're having it do stuff that you already essentially like already do or know how to do and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also kind of wanted to say, like, from my experience in the games industry, of being, I guess you could consider me officially like a former game developer. I worked in
Mm-hmm.
QA for about 12 years, almost 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And AI or automated systems, like, they didn't become very prevalent until about, I want to say, like 2020. Like, there wasn't really a lot of AI being used or anything like that. And in the QA space or quality assurance space, I mean, and for those of you out there that don't necessarily know what quality assurance is within the context of the gaming world, it's essentially like it's game testers, like you're testing the game, but there's varying levels. It's not just simply testing the game. But I'm just making it super simple just so you have an
Mm-hmm.
idea of like what my like field was or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Kind of complex.
yeah, there's a lot more to it. A lot of people are like, oh, so you just like sit there and play video games all day? I'm like, no, that's not it at all, actually. But yeah, so automated, we used a lot, well, not we used, but I started getting into it a little bit before I went and found another job. But I was being taught on sort of like what the context will be and where we would use it, because sometimes when game studios will kind of be like, oh yeah, we used AI in development, people are like, oh my gosh, they use it to like make art and all this stuff. And it's like, sometimes maybe they did for placeholder stuff, which is a totally valid thing. And if they forgot to replace the placeholder thing, then yeah, okay, oops, I didn't do it. But like, I don't see how that's like a bad thing. Again, it's like, it's a placeholder. It was just something that's placeholder shit is used all the time in game development. You just
Mm-hmm.
throw something there just to have it there, so you have an idea of, you just need something in place. It's a placeholder, if anybody knows
Yeah.
what the hell that is. So but in QA, it got to a point where like when you're in QA, it's, you use external teams for very, very basic things, but your internal teams are usually more senior members that you
Mm-hmm.
want them kind of thinking of what they would call like they call it edge case testing, and it's essentially like those people are looking for the very hard to find critical issues, like the things that are not just open the game and click start and click on character. I'm just making up a random scenario. Click on characters, game crashes. Like that's a very like straightforward, what we would call golden user path. Like you're not veering off, you're not closing the game, then reopening the game, and then disconnecting from the internet, and then reconnecting, and then trying to connect a matchmaking link. Like those are so many different variables. Like that's an edge case. That's not just open game, click on this, I'm in game. That's golden user path. That is a very straightforward path that you're following. And so the edge case testing, you wanted your more senior members to like try to think of how to break the game, how to like find those weird edge case scenarios. And so what happens for a long time, at least in QA, is that you had all your senior members that you wanted to spend time on edge case testing. They also had to spend time verifying the golden user path, the very basic, straightforward things within the game. And so that was eating up a chunk of their time because they have to go through so much of that they're not getting to what we would call ad hoc, which is, again, you're essentially it's just free time to go test, and you're going to you're looking to break the game, and you're looking for edge cases. That's what the ad hoc testing is. And so they didn't get to do as much of that. So basically AI came into this sort of scene or whatever. And what that was aimed to do was to simply was mostly to eliminate the golden user path, the very straightforward things that you could just have the AI run through those, and they could run through them very fast. And they could just do those very redundant, repetitive test cases that you have, and those things that you're verifying. You could have the AI do it. And what's really good too about that, or is very good about it, is that they can run them multiple times. They can run it very fast, because another layer to QA and testing is you're trying to understand the severity of the issue, because just because you ran into something once doesn't inherently make it a critical issue. Now, if you run into that issue 10 times in a row, and it's a crash or whatever it is preventing you from playing the game, that immediately bumps it up to a critical issue. It's what they call like a severity 4. It kind of depends on where you're working. It's either severity 1 or severity 4. Sometimes places will flip-flop it. But either way, it is the most critical thing. You're running into it 10 times out of 10. It's 100% repro. And those are those things. But you can find that with AI, and the AI will spit out that information and say, hey, we ran this 50 times, and 43 times out of 50, we encountered this issue. But it was running these very redundant, repetitive, basic test cases. And so I think that is a very valid,
it's a cool
good use case for it. It's not taking away. I'm not losing my job because they're doing that. I now have more time to go find and break the game in other more interesting ways, because AI is not going to be able to think of all this, because like you said, it's not creating anything new. It's taking all the information that we are giving it, and it's learning from us, essentially. And so there's a lot of time investment in people building out the tools, building out the scripts, teaching it certain things, but overall you're really just using it for very basic and redundant things. So that's like a lot of my experience with AI, especially in the games industry. And so I think that there are valid scenarios that it can be used, and I think that that's okay, and it doesn't impair it. It actually makes things a lot better and a lot smoother and a lot quicker in certain ways. And there's other very basic stuff. I've even had other people that there's like it's even just like taking notes. Like there's AI now, if you're like in a Zoom call or a Google call, and it can basically like take notes from our entire conversation for us, write it down for us, spit it out, and create a sort of like to-do list for after your conversation. I think like stuff like that is like totally valid. Like it's not taking anything away from anybody. So
for sure,
I think that's what I mean. I wanted to like bring it back to like what we initially were saying, is that I think this topic, AI, is such an interesting topic, because I think a lot of people, especially if you're not informed or you don't have experience or you don't really know, you just look at it for face value, and you see things saying like, oh, it's taking all these jobs, and it's it's creating art and stealing from all these people, which those things are happening 100%. But there's another side of it that I think is still good. It is okay to use, and I think is healthy to use. And we're not taking anything away from it. It's making everybody's lives easier, but not doing too much. And so I think there's a balance there that we just haven't found, because AI is so new. It's just, everybody's still figuring it out. But that being said, it's growing very fast, and that is scary. because I mean, ChatGPT was what literally just became a thing like 2 years ago, maybe
2022. 2022.
Yeah,
I
so
think
3 years,
first...
3.5, almost 4 years ago. That's not a long time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's
Yep.
growing fast. Everything's growing fast. So that's the scary part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I know, like
that's my TED Talk. Thank you for joining my TED Talk.
I know. It literally came a thing. I think it was right as I was exiting grad school. So I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that, AI is complicated. It's nuanced. It's contextual. It's so many different things, and really, it's used with a sense of intentionality, use with moderation, and yeah, make sure that you are broadening how you learn things from a diverse standpoint and not get stuck in the echo chamber of a LLM. So yeah,
do your best to go out there and research if you can, if you have the time or whatever, and don't just hear one thing and assume that that's the whole truth. I think that's pretty easy to do nowadays, but
for sure.
But
and messing with it, like seeing how it works on that's not
don't
gonna
don't be afraid. I feel like some people like now like ChatGPT's in this weird spot where it's like a weird like don't want to say stigma or whatever, where they're just like, they assume like, oh no, I don't want to use it, it's AI, boo, I'm scared. And then there's other people that overuse it, but again, that's used in moderation, and in the right scenarios you're fine. Don't be worried about it. But
anyway, so one thing that we did say we were going to do this podcast is talk about our health plan and talk about
fitness journey.
Exactly. Basically talk about the stakes if we don't end up working out. So I brought my little book here that I wrote down my plan.
For those of you that are listening to this episode, if you didn't happen to listen to our last episode about energy management, please go check that one out. Hopefully you'll get some useful tips out of that. Because we are experts in everything. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
Definitely not.
I'm just kidding.
Definitely not.
Just kidding. But check that out. We mentioned briefly that we were gonna go over. I've said briefly a lot this recording, and it's pissing me off. We talked about sort of like what our fitness journey was going to be. We didn't go into it too crazy because we figured this one we would just take a little bit of time and flesh it out a little bit more. But we've decided that we wanted to both start, changing a lot of our eating habits, our health habits, like sort of in general. And we kind of wanted to hold each other accountable to a degree and kind of do this in tandem because both Britt and I are people that enjoy having others that are holding, like having someone else to hold you accountable and doing something with you. It does tend to help you like stay on track and all that stuff. So we both wanted to kind of agree to do something like this and see if we could hit our goals. And then on top of that, if we don't hit the goal, then we have to do something that we don't really want to do.
Exactly.
And so for my goal, I set for myself, I'm starting today because I already got some food. My goal, so Britton is helping me get over my, I guess you could say it's like a fear, like a subconscious fear of like, I don't eat vegetables. I hardly eat healthy. Like I'm not a vegetable guy. It's
like a mild food aversion. If you
like I don't know what you call it. Yeah, whatever Britton calls it, he knows the technical term for it.
Mild, not in the. Actually, I don't even know if that's the exact content. It don't really matter. Just you don't like a specific food that you need to eat.
a lot of foods. I don't like broccoli. I don't like cauliflower. I don't like carrots. I don't like the kale. I don't like. There's a lot of vegetables. There's some fruits I'll eat, but like mostly vegetables, I just have not liked. And so Britton's helping me try to sort of change the way that I approach this mentally. And changing sort of habits and pathways and all that stuff.
Yeah. As a friend, not as a clinician. Let's just be crystal clear about that one.
I'm not paying him to do something or whatever that. He's just helping me to understand like how I can kind of switch things up and change sort of certain pathways in my head. How I can make this kind of work. And sort of put a positive spin on it. So I'm starting today for myself. I'm starting with broccoli. I'm gonna get myself to like broccoli, and so that's kind of what I'm committed to right now through the first couple months. Maybe after the first month, maybe we'll kind of reconvene and maybe I'm doing good and we'll switch it up. But either way, that's also, the first one I'm trying to.
Probably let's like lower that. Not like broccoli, but tolerate broccoli. Let's just aim for tolerating.
Hey man, who knows? Maybe I just a switch flips. Maybe that's how it works, dude. I go crazy, and I'm just like, dude, I love broccoli.
If that's the case, then I will turn on my clinician step and turn you into a case study. No, I'm joking.
Okay, well, whatever. Okay, tolerate broccoli. And and then on top of that, I've already been walking. I've talked about this in previous episodes as well. I've been walking. I shoot for about 10,000 steps a day. Sometimes I get more, maybe sometimes a little bit less, but about on average, I get about 10,000. I walk a lot with my daughter on her wake windows. And so I've already been doing that. And then the next goal for that was to start doing a little bit of weight training. So I'm going to be using dumbbells mostly. And I'm going to do that 3 times a week. And then I'm putting myself in a calorie deficit. And so for the goal for the next 2 months is to lose 10 pounds and to build healthier habits and to kind of, try to eliminate a lot of the bad decisions that I make as far as like my health goes and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's kind of my thing. We're by our June 6th, I believe, episode. That's when we record, is on June 6th. So the episode that we actually talk about whether we got those goals would probably be the 20th of June. That'd be 2 weeks after that, right? So probably around the 20th of June is when we would actually reveal if we did all the right stuff, I believe. Don't quote me on it right now. I'm just kind of making it up in my head.
Yeah, the 20th of June is a Saturday, so probably the 18th. The 18th is when that episode would
slightly because we released it a couple. Yeah, so 18th of June is when that episode would come out, or about that. So yeah,
so
so that's mine. Britton, you're doing your thing.
So I'm taking a little bit different approach. I'm focusing more on habit building, but in a very specific way. So I have my little notebook here that I wrote out kind of my health plan. So what I start out with is my value, like why do I want to change this? Like what is important to me? And so, and the main thing about it is I want to have more energy, so I can take care of my kiddo, feel better, engage in things I care about, both basically now and in the future. Because my hope is that while this is a 2-month journey, these are habits that will stick beyond that. And likely what we'll do is we will create new goals and new plans together, so that way we keep on moving towards our goal, or our fitness goal. So my overarching goal, which some people will be like, well, that's not necessarily a SMART goal. It kind of is. Don't get in the weeds. Is basically I will engage in several habit changes that include changing just my eating habits, which I kind of have a list of what that means, exercise habits, which I have a small list of what that means, and morning habits for the next 2 months. I will measure progress by my weekly goals. I had this little thing that I do that I basically set up like what I want to do for that week and how I'm going to do it, and like if I actually do it. And then I'm going to measure it by a subjective view of my energy. Am I actually feeling better, or am I still feeling sluggish and crappy? And also a slow decline of my weight. I didn't give myself a number for my weight, because I more care about feeling better than I do about like the number, like aiming for a specific number. So what that looks like is for my mornings, I'm hoping to wake up around 5:30 a.m. about 4 times a week, so I can do like journaling and do one thing as my goal.
Not me.
I know you're not a morning person, but like for me, that's like so important to have that good start to the day. And I'm realizing more and more when I don't have that good start, I feel like crap for the rest of the day. So that's like a huge piece. For eating, we have been starting to prep meals, but now it's going to be kind of part of the goals. Like we're going to try to prep as many meals as possible, so that way they're healthy and we eat out less, therefore less bad food. Yes. I'm going to aim for eating.
Same by the way for me. I don't think I added that point. Me and my wife are doing meal prepping as well.
My main goal is to eat eggs for breakfast, and then a light lunch like a oats overnight type deal or something super simple, and then a normal dinner, which is what we prep. The reason why I'm doing it in that way is that helps me like focus on eating consistently, so my metabolism can get back in order, because I'm really bad at eating consistently. And then snacks will only be fruits and vegetables. I also am going to wait 15 to 20 minutes after I eat my first serving before I get seconds. I have this really bad habit, especially for dinner, of eating really fast and grabbing a second bowl or plate and then eating that before my stomach even has the time to say,
actually realizes, like, oh, I'm full.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and then when we do eat out, which we will still inevitably eat out because we travel a lot, I'm going to try to always second guess my initial normal choice. So if I usually go to McDonald's and get a quarter pounder, I may pause and think, hey, what's something else that I can get instead that could be a little
I was all over the Big Arch, dude. That thing was so good.
Man, never tried it. Never
dude,
tried it.
It was so good.
Probably so good.
Because I like the quarter pounders because this is a really random side tangent. But I like
I'm trying to get through this.
I know. I like the quarter pounders though because they felt like they were real burgers. They weren't like those crazy like fake patties.
Yeah.
And so the Big Arch used like those same patties where they're like the actual patties or whatever. They're not the fake ones. So I was like, it's so good. Anyways, it's really good.
And then,
I'm not promoting McDonald's, I swear.
Sure. So as far as movement and exercise, that's not going to be the focus for me in these 2 months. I'm still going to do some movement stuff, but it's not going to be the main thing. Eating's going to be more my main thing because that's the simplest for me to implement. And since I'm starting this journey out, and I do plan on going much longer than the 2 months, I want to start off a little bit smaller here because exercise is not my strength. So I will walk
We're working on positive mindset.
Doesn't always work, but I appreciate it. So I will walk with Cece 4 times a week because the weather's been kind of nice here. And then run is optional, which I think when I was talking to you once I was walking her, I did a couple of small sprints. And then I will lift one because we have kind of some dumbbells here and all that stuff. I will lift 1 time a week, minute minimum, or do core exercises just 1 time a week. If I do more, great. But my goal is just 1. And then I have some other stuff that I won't go through, but I also have stuff about like habits that I'm going to work on, like changing or replacing. So that way, like the unhealthy stuff that I typically do, I'll start doing other stuff instead that will increase the health aspect. Because if I just say I'm going to stop doing this without replacing it, I'm much less likely to stop doing the thing I want to stop doing. So that's my thing. That was a nice little slap.
Nice. You went more in depth than I thought you were going to go, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, that's my main goal. That was kind of long, I know, but I wanted to kind of go through that. But that's the main thing.
Yeah, well, I think yours is probably like, I have a very like, here, I want to lose 10 pounds over 2 months. Yours is a little bit more nuanced than that, so it's fair for you to kind of go through.
Yeah.
All that is to say too that at the end of the 2 months, we both have agreed
that
we would have a stakes in this, and it's something. It definitely is a super negative for us. It's not money. It's not money. We're not like, oh, hey, this person's got to pay this person $100 or something. It's none of that. The stakes is that if we fail, and this is also the thing too, I want to make clear because I was confused. I was not understanding exactly.
Yeah.
The stakes, since these are goals for ourselves, this isn't like a me versus Britton sort of thing.
Correct.
It's we're setting out for our own goals. So if we each individually fail, we both have to do what the stakes are, which the stakes is we have to wear, in my case, it's most likely going to be, I have to wear a Niners hat for 2 of the podcasts, I believe, of our recordings.
Two of the podcasts and 1 family gathering.
Dude, my family will love that.
I know.
They're all Niners.
I know.
For context, just a little bit of context, all my family is like Niners fans, or my in-laws are Niners fans. My family is Seahawks fans.
Yeah.
And I'm a diehard Seahawks. We're both diehard Seahawks fans. So, So, and then Britton, he's kind of tossed up. He's probably will do the Patriots.
Yeah. So
he's Niners or Patriots.
So my wife is a diehard Patriots fans, and we jokingly talk about, give each other crap, and then her entire family is a huge Patriots fan, and they know that I am not a fan of the Patriots.
And if you're a Seahawks fan, you know why that also hurts your soul.
Oh, so. Absolutely. So I will likely have to wear a Patriots hat, or worse, I may have to wear one of her Patriots jerseys, depending on the level that I decide to go in here. Probably, you know what? I'm gonna say now because she has a medium, and I'm hoping I'll be able to kind of fit in that now.
I'm sure she'll be like, man, you can fit into my jersey.
I know. Well, she got a large one, a larger one, just in case, because we're hoping to have kids down the road, and she wants to be able to wear it at different stages.
Okay, that's
so. Fair. But anyway, so I'll probably wear her medium, and then and hopefully I'll actually, if I fail this, then I won't be able to fit in it. So I'll be like,
I am for sure wearing the Niners. I will wear the Niners hat. I'll do it for the 2, and then the family event. The reason why I also want to say this too, because like anybody that doesn't really watch sports, if they're tuning into this and you don't really watch sports, or even if you do watch sports, you're like, I mean, if you watch football and you're pretty heavily into football, you know that wearing your rivals any sort of jersey, uniform, attire, hat, whatever, like, and that's your rival, like that just absolutely hurts your soul. So for Britton and I, this is pretty high stakes.
Will be immense.
And we have to put it out in front of people, and we have to sit there and wear it in front of people. So this is pretty rough for us. We definitely do not want to. My in-laws would love to see it. My brother-in-law would probably laugh his ass off. So, so this is high stakes for us. I know you're probably like, dang, I want some crazy high stakes, but sorry, this is not like that, but it is enough for us that we are both motivated to not have to do that. So
absolutely. But anyway,
that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, subscribe. Please comment if you want to join us in this health journey. If you do, put in the comments what your plan is, what your stakes are. I'd love to hear it. And also,
let us know if Skynet is coming. Is this is this happening? Is it really? You know what I mean? Let us know if do you use AI in your daily life? If you do, is there anything specific that you use for? Are you just like solely against AI? You think AI is the devil or something like that? Please just let us know. Feel free to comment it down below. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and the other main thing is, if none of those are true, just comment and say hi. We love
say hello.
We love engaging, talking with people, all that stuff. And anyway, well, until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful couple of weeks, and we'll see you next time.
We'll catch you later. Bye.